I think we are getting ready for Tate Talk Live, May 15th, 2023. Our panelists are just about to get on, and we will get started on our exciting topic of the day, leveraging social media to grow our business in 2023 and beyond. So I see Stephanie Burrows chimes in, says, great topic. And I'd ask if our panelists, Mason, Meredith, Marie, and Wesley can get on, would be incredible. And we are recording this. There they come. Awesome, awesome. Kelly Smith, Greenville, Simpsonville is in the house. Anyway, welcome again to Tate Talk Live. We are excited. We've got Wesley, we've got Meredith, we've got Mason, and we've got Marie with us today. As we prepped for this, I told them that while I sent them a run of show, I will always modify that. So I got two quotes. A couple of you out there in the field have heard these, and I'm just giving Gastonia heads up because 9:30 tomorrow morning, you'll get this when I come to your business meeting. I have this quote that says, "Don't be upset by the results you didn't get from the work you didn't do." I want you to listen carefully. Don't be upset by the results you didn't get from the work you didn't do. And then something every single one of you have heard. Look at this. Nadine Morgan says, this panel is pretty legit. Absolutely. So we all know the definition of insanity. It's doing the same things today as I did yesterday while expecting different results tomorrow. And so we are excited to be here with you today, talking about social media. The last couple panels we've had, we've talked about open houses and how do we get listings and how do we have a strategy for post-closing. But today, social media. So let's first get to meet our panelists. They're going to tell you a little something about them, and then we're going to jump right into some questions. So Wesley, how about an introduction?
I'm Wesley Sourwine. I am the Creative Services Manager here in our marketing department in the South Park office. I've been at Allen Tate for almost 3 years now, and I've been working in marketing for 8. I have a background in design, but I also have, here at Allen Tate, I work in the social media side a lot. And so I manage the social media side of our marketing concierge program, and then also our company social media strategy. So.
Awesome. Awesome. Wesley, it is great to have you on. We can't wait to get a great combination of answers from you kind of inside the department and then out in the field. It'll be terrific. Meredith.
Hey.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Meredith Hilbert. I am from the Wake Forest office, which is outside of Raleigh, for those of you that might not know. I've been licensed, it'll be 10 years in June, and actually all 10 years with Allen Tate. What does that say? Love the company and love that we're on today and we can hopefully help some people.
Awesome. Meredith, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Marie, good afternoon.
Good morning. How are you? Thanks for having me. So I'm Marie Lorimer, and I am in the Charlotte office over here in Ballantyne. So kind of a different story. I was actually born and raised in Charlotte, so I've been here my entire life. I'm married to Stephen Lorimer, who you guys might know as my other half that's also here in the Ballantyne office. We have 2 boys, 11 and 13. I've been with Allen Tate now going on 4 years in August, which is really hard to believe. I spent 16 years in new construction, but on the new construction side, real estate, new construction side. So my entire career has always been in real estate, but joined Stephen almost 4 years ago.
Welcome. I'm reminded of the first month when I came back, I spent some time at the Ballantyne office, and Marie and Stephen were the first 2 that I had met that I had not known from when I was here before, as we sat there and had a town hall in the Ballantyne office, and it was awesome. And it's great to have you with us today on Tate Talk Live. I know our audience is excited to hear what all of you have to share. Mason, welcome.
Hi, my name is Mason McCracken. I work for the Lake Norman office with Tate. I'm from North Carolina. I grew up in Western North Carolina. My mom was a real estate agent, so I got drug around going to her open houses and showing property with her, and told her that I would never do real estate. And then I started this not too long after college, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I've been with Tate for 5 years now.
Awesome. So just for the record, we've got four M's and a GW, right? We got Meredith, Marie, Mason, Maggie. Maggie will be on a little later with the little T's. And then you've got Wesley and Gary. So let's get started. I'm going to go a little off our script, but I'm going to start with Wesley. She sent me a question yesterday, which I think is the singular, most significant foundational question. I've never used social media in my business. Where do I start and how do I find content to use on social media? And from that, our panelists are going to expand on all of the different things that they have done. And we're going to go from Facebook to TikTok to all kinds of things. Wesley, why don't you share?
Yeah. So that's a question that we get a lot in the marketing department. Is agents coming to us and they say, I know I need to be doing this, but I don't even know where to start. And that's why I haven't started. And so that's a natural way to start. Even if you use social media personally, it's completely different when you're using it for your business and to communicate with potential clients. And so it's understandable that that is kind of a foreign concept to a lot of people. Honestly, the best place to start is just to start. The beginning is going to be a little bit bumpy. You're going to be figuring out what works, what doesn't work, what kind of energy that you have to put into this kind of thing. I will say, so our CMO, Stephanie Riley, she always talks about marketing as a multi-layered approach. And so I can encourage you by saying social media is just one more layer of marketing that you're providing as a service to your clients, to your sellers of the properties you're representing, and then also to your buyers, just showing them the scope of work that you can do. So I recommend starting with setting up a business page, whether that be Instagram or Facebook. You can use a personal profile on LinkedIn. That's a better way to reach people on LinkedIn specifically because there are so many other large businesses on LinkedIn. But if you set up a business profile on Facebook and Instagram, that's different than your personal profile because personal profiles have different security settings. Not as many people can be reached with your content. A business profile is a public account and anyone can find it. So if so-and-so bought a home from you a year ago and their friend from college is moving to the area, they can just send that business page to their friend and then you have a new lead. So that's one of the most important things is making sure that you have, number one, a profile set up, and number two, that it's accessible to as many people as possible.
Well, I think Wesley hits the proverbial nail on the head, and that is just get started, right? Just get started. So let's go to our panelists, find out kind of when they got started, maybe how they got started and what it has kind of evolved into, because I follow all of our panelists on Facebook and social media. And so I get to see the things that they do. So in no particular order, but how it shows up on my screen, I don't know how everyone else is saying it. Marie,
Sure.
I think you said you were in business 4 years. So talk about the evolution of social media for you.
Well, what's interesting, so my background is in marketing, and I was a VP of marketing for a home builder. So this is what I did for a living. However, it's totally different when you're trying to market a builder and a product versus market yourself. So, everyone kind of coming into it, I was like, oh, this will be easy. But, again, at the end of the day, while we sell homes as the product, we're really marketing ourselves on social media, and that's a completely different platform than what I was used to. Stephen had already started. And by started, he opened an account on social media and he had posted some things, and every now and then he would post. But because him and I weren't working together, it really was more just when he thought about it, he would post something. So it wasn't very consistent. So really my goal when I joined him almost 4 years ago was to really elevate that platform. He was about 5 years into his business at that point. And we were already starting to see some of the repeat and referrals coming. And even though he was doing other touches in terms of nurturing them, we weren't using this platform, you know, to elevate that business. So really in the beginning, I mean, kind of like what Wesley was saying, it was very bumpy. I would just post stuff, whether that was sales that we had or market knowledge, or, and I'll be truly honest, in the very, very beginning, it was all post, no videos. I was scared to death of video. I didn't want to be in front of the camera. I was always the person behind the camera directing people, right? So now to be the person in front of the camera was terrifying. But that was sort of our way of just getting started, was just putting content out there. And very quickly we started to see, you know, traction. And by the second year of working together, I kind of made it a goal for myself. I saw what other people were doing, or I was watching so there are other successful real estate agents in other markets doing what we do and getting traction. And so, you know, I was like, okay, I just gotta pull the Band-Aid and do it. And so, yeah, really not fun in the beginning. But I would say once you get over kind of yourself, right? Like really it was just myself and my way. I always joke that at the end of the day, that's how everyone else sees me. And that's what I sound like. So it was really myself that was getting in my own way. So once I got over that, it became much easier. And then the content would just kind of start to flow. And really, I mean, I think all you guys can agree, it's all the things that we do in our business, right? It was just talking about it out loud because it was already the things I was talking about with my clients.
Awesome. A couple takeaways, right? Consistency, very intentional. Get over the fear of video. You know, a couple people say, you know, when you record that video, don't watch it before you post it, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to critique yourself. And you know, I think it's very interesting. And it was a great question Jared James asked at the Realtor Summit, which was there was 196 people in the room, and he asked how many people watch YouTube video, and every hand went up. And then he asked the next question, how many of you post your videos on YouTube? And 2 people raised their hand, right? So again, it's about understanding, and it's about taking, you know, that was just a really, that was an eye-opening for me. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it was an eye-opening for the 194 who didn't raise their hand on the second question, right? So Marie, thank you. Meredith, walk us through a little bit of your social media journey, and, you know, really, what are you doing today that is really working for you?
Okay, so when I started, I did not actually have a budget for marketing. So that meant all of my efforts were really about me and my time and the work I was putting in, and anything I could do that was free or low cost. So social media was the answer there. And I have had and still have a business page and a personal page, and I use both differently. And then anything that goes on the business page, because I saw this in our message board, people feel like you don't get a lot of traction on there. Everything that's on my business page is shared over to the personal. And then beyond that, it's shared into relevant groups. So I'm sure you guys have them too, but like we have Wake Forest Community Information and all these other groups. So the posts that I create that I feel are valuable to the community or to specific groups go that route as well, which can't really come from the business page unless the business is part of that group. But the reason I say all this is because you're really hitting people on multiple levels, on the business page, the personal page, and then on the community platforms. How do we share business to personal, Instagram and Facebook? Okay, so when I started, I was only focusing on Facebook and LinkedIn because really that's all I could manage. Now, fast forward 10 years later, I'm using Alan Tate's Marketing Concierge Group. They help me, and this is great because it keeps a constant flow. So when you're in real estate, you know that you ride the roller coaster sometimes. You're busy with clients, you're working, you forget to post, and then you're like, oops, and then you get back on track with your social media posting. So the reason that I decided to do that is I knew the quality of my material would be higher because I'm not going to take time to go learn, you know, Canva and all these other things. I have baby skills, but not major skills. So they do that. They make beautiful posts for me, and they're very consistent. And then I'm still supplementing with my own content. And I will
So,
tell you too, Gary, two more things. Sorry.
Yeah,
I look
sure.
at it, I look at social media two different ways. Now it's more for brand recognition, right? I want to keep my name out there and keep top of mind. When I first started, I was actually looking for real live leads. We get a lot of posts in this community that say, I'm looking for a great realtor, and then there'll be 300 comments of all the realtors in this area. I don't really post on those, but my bird dogs do. My clients who love me, they say use Meredith. So that's a way that I've gotten some business. In the beginning, I would also look for posts that say, I'm new to the area. I'm looking for a mechanic. I'm new to the area. I'm looking for a church. And I would write back to those people privately, and I would connect that way. And those actually turned into deals. So that was a real active way to get business. And the other to me is more about brand awareness.
Awesome. Meredith, we're going to ask you one more question. We're getting a lot of good questions in the chat, so thank you. I forgot to remind everybody, if you have a question for our panelists, we will do the best we can to answer them as they come in. It says, Meredith, what do you pay for that service?
So I'm actually the bronze package. And I do want to tell you, if you're starting out and you hear these numbers, it may feel very uncomfortable. I'm not just starting out, and I have a marketing budget, but I want to say it's around, I don't know, 600 or something per month. But for me, that is money completely well spent, because again, I'm not going to take my time to learn how to use all these fancy programs to create these beautiful posts, because that's not the best use of my time.
So I think that's, yeah, Wesley.
Sorry, I just wanted to add on to the marketing concierge side. So that program is, like Meredith said, it's meant to help supplement. We have several different levels of management that we can include at Meredith's level and a couple others. We have all the platforms plugged in to software to track analytics, and we do analytic reports and that kind of stuff. But yeah, so we'd be happy to answer any questions, and I can put that information in the chat as well.
Awesome. You know, it's interesting because one of our questions after we get to Mason is, a couple of things. Number one, the budget, right? Number two, analytics. Number three, what components of social media? And I'm going to ask Mason about her journey, but in a note that I got back from her this morning, she's going to speak specifically, at least at this segment of our Tate Talk Live. She's going to talk about TikTok. So Mason, why don't you share a little bit about your journey and how you have leveraged TikTok to grow your business?
Yeah, so mine is going to be a little bit different. I started with a business Instagram account, and I had a personal account, and I just felt myself not posting on my business account. Whenever I look at my feed on Instagram, I don't necessarily follow like the business accounts unless it's people that I know. I think that for me personally, it worked better to kind of integrate my personal and my business. And I think that's helped a lot, because when I close on a house, like I maintain relationships with my clients after the closing. And so for me, that kind of helped, but I still wasn't doing a ton. I would just post my business stuff on my Instagram stories, and then my feed was more for like my personal. And then during lockdown, I downloaded TikTok and started just kind of watching TikTok videos. And then I found myself like scrolling on them and liking them. And then I got bored one day and started just making TikTok videos. I didn't really take it seriously. But I liked, posting on there. It was awkward at first, but the best part about doing video for me, I know someone mentioned earlier, like, don't look at it, just post it. But for me, if I mess up, the best part about posting a video is that I can start over. I can, pause. I can cut that section out if I need to. Like, I can redo something if I fumble on my words. And so I like that aspect of it. And my first video that kind of took off, I had a client that made an offer down in Plaza Midwood on a house. He offered 55 above list with, 85 above list with significant due diligence fees, significant earnest money deposits. And the listing agent let us know that we were not even close to the winning offer. So I kind of made a video, and I was like, I'm tired. And I was talking about the market, and it's at 1.7 million views. And in that, I realized like buyers were sharing their stories that were similar listing agents across the country were commenting about how their markets were doing. And it made me realize that this is a way that I can reach a lot of people if I focus on it and if I work on it and if I kind of like develop my own touch on things. So I started taking TikTok seriously, and then, you know, you would have a couple videos that take off here and there. And then over time, I've kind of built it up to where I have like 53,000 followers on TikTok now. And the content comes easier the more you do it.
No.
And so like, I think Marie touched on that earlier, but the more you do it, like people will comment, they'll ask questions, and that gives you something to make a video about. And it just kind of helps gear it and customize it towards your audience. So.
Awesome. Hey, we got a couple questions, and then we're going to kind of go around to get to the next set of questions. So comes to all of you, to everyone, but I think this is for Mason. What software do you use to edit your video? Do you use an app in phone or a program on your computer?
Yeah, so like with TikTok specifically, there's a lot of editing tools that are available within the app itself. And so I tend to do most of it there. There are some apps like CapCut is another app that you can use. It's CapCut. And it's integrated in with TikTok and Instagram. So if you edit a video in there, you can actually share it directly from that. But CapCut's free. TikTok's free. Instagram has some video editing features in there. In my opinion, they could be better. But I'm not incredibly tech savvy. I just use what's there, and even unedited videos can do well.
Awesome. And then last question, and then we'll get to another series of questions, and we'll continue to come back to our audience. This comes for you, Mason, on 1.7 million views. Did you boost?
I did not. That's the craziest thing about TikTok, and Instagram will do it too. But the craziest thing about TikTok is its unpredictability. And Gary, I think one of your questions is, what are the pros and cons for some of these platforms? With TikTok specifically, the best and worst thing about it is its unpredictability. So I could spend hours making a video and think that it's going to like perform really well, and it sits at low views and it doesn't really get any engagement. And then I can make a TikTok video about me taking my dog through the McDonald's drive-through, and it gets over 11 million views. Like it's just crazy. But the more that you do it, even if you're only hitting small amounts of views, if you're engaging with your videos, people are commenting, and you build relationships with these people that you don't know. But they come back and then they share your videos, and then it only takes a couple to kind of take off. And then even the slow ones are they still do good. That's
awesome. Wesley, don't get any ideas about me doing TikTok. Going on. I draw the line. So I kind of have I see some wheels turning. Don't go. Marie, you know, one of the things that I think is so important in all of our business, right? It's about a budget, but it's also about, you know, how do we measure the return on investment? How do we, you know, are we gathering analytics? So I'd like to go around to our panelists and talk about the measurement, right? Because I think that we can do all kinds of great things and creative things, but ultimately, yes, it's to brand ourselves and to get impressions in the market, but it's to drive business. It's to drive transactions. It's to stay connected to our clients in our sphere. Marie, share with us kind of how you and Stephen navigate the return on investment from your social media strategy.
So I guess I'll start off by kind of talking about sort of why we do it, right? I think first you got to kind of figure out what your audience is. And so we kind of touched on this earlier. Initially, I think all of us are trying to capture leads, obviously, from our social media platform, and we do get leads from ours. But I would say more importantly, it's a way for us to keep in flow with our audience and with our clients, whether that's a client today, a client 5 years ago, 9 years ago, it doesn't matter. It's a soft sort of touch. They can come on and view us anytime they want. It's not invasive, right? And so for me, it was an easy way to capture and be present in front of my audience every day, all the time. And so that's really hard to measure in terms of, you know, then we get that question all the time, how many people converted? So I started looking at it a little bit differently, because for us, our audience wasn't necessarily to capture leads, although we do get leads. We do get organic leads from social media. But I think for Steve and I specifically, more importantly, our strategy was not leads, but to really nurture our clients that we already have, to really educate them on what's going on in the marketplace, and give, kind of like what Mason was saying, give real life scenarios of what was going on, right? I think at the end of the day, people just wanted authenticity. And so I would just talk about like what was going on that weekend, or I think some of the best ones that we got the most traction on were the ones I was most frustrated about, like if I was venting, because people kind of could relate. And really at the end of the day, maintaining that trust with our clients that we already have as their like main go-to person, for all things real estate, right? Whether it be decorating, finding a paint colors, just tell me what you think about, or vendors, partnerships and things like that. So we just wanted to make sure we were always in front of our people. And so, like I said, that's really hard to track, but we quickly realized almost every single time we would post something on a daily basis, when I'm out in public and I'm meeting clients, or I run into someone at the grocery store, it never fails. It always comes up. Oh, I loved what you talked about the other day. Oh, that house that you showed the other day was so awesome. Sometimes sometimes it's even, I loved your outfit, whatever. But it's almost every person I run into that I know, or better yet, because we get so many referrals from clients that we do business with, I will meet someone for the first time, but they already know who we are. They've already been following us on social media. And so that is really how I measure it. And so I started looking back the last couple of years to see, okay, based on our business, how much of it was coming from what I call like a repeat person, a referral, not the referral in the sense of, paying referral, although we get those too through OGRs, but like from our client sphere of influence, right? And since we started tracking it 3 years ago, it was about 50% of our business came from referrals and people that like repeat business that we had already done business with. And quickly by the second year that I was with Stephen, that jumped to 75%. And then today we're sitting at 9%. So 90% of my business today is people we already know, or there's some connection somehow. It's very, very rare that we would have someone out of the blue, although we get those, and those are fun too, where I'm like, how did you find me? And they're like, oh, stumbled upon your Instagram page, or I found your website, or so we get those. But I would say more commonly it's so-and-so told me about you and I went on your social media page to go check you out, right? That's the bulk of our business. And so for us, while it's not as tangible, it is a true measurement that it's working.
So I love everything you said, but I think it's really interesting. I go back to the Realtor Summit and again, a comment that Jared James said, and I think it resonates, which is just remember that by the time you meet with somebody, they already know you.
They do. Mm-hmm.
And if they don't already know you, then you really need to challenge yourself in what your social media strategy is, because that's how the world is today, right? And I think it's really, you hit the nail on the head. You don't have empirical data, but you've got data. You've got, I call it mindset data, that is really relevant. And you've seen a couple of things. You've seen your business grow. You've seen your referral base grow. And as you're out in the community, you interact with people who say, I saw you. And I think that's the piece. And for those listening who haven't had a strategy, I would give serious thought to say, we want to make sure that we experience the same thing Marie and Mason and Meredith have experienced. So let me go down to Mason and then up to Meredith. Mason, just, and I know you sent me a note about the measurement, but just talk about, kind of what you've experienced, kind of intellectually as you've been out in the market.
Yeah, so it was funny. I sent Gary an email last night and I said, I don't know if I can touch too much on the metrics question because I don't pay attention too much to that from like what TikTok provides. because it does give you metrics as far as like the percentage of your clients who are or the viewers who are female, how many are in Charlotte. Like it gives you that information. But then I sat down and looked, and I went through my closed volume from last year, and 20% of my closed volume from last year came directly from leads from TikTok. And I didn't really start posting on my TikTok until after June, when that first video took off. And I didn't really take it seriously until then. And so then I sat down and I looked. I have a whiteboard in my office here, and I have my hot list and my warm list. And when I'm sitting here looking at it, I sat down and I added up the total amount of volume for qualified buyers and sellers that I'm actively out working with right now. And it will result in probably $5 million worth of business just this year of what I have so far. And that's all directly from TikTok. I'm not saying that that's my entire lead source, but it's turned out to be a really great lead source for me. And I didn't really expect that whenever I started making the videos. And I think Marie kind of touched on this earlier whenever she was saying that, like, sometimes the ones that do well are when she's frustrated and she's venting. And I kind of learned that when you post like hot topics, right, like pain points for people, so interest rates, or being in a multiple offer situation, or, you know, interesting topics like newsworthy topics. Like I made a video on the island that's listed for sale up here for $22 million, and that did pretty well. And so it just gets people talking, and the more it gets talking, the more it gets shared. And I've gotten referrals from it from agents that are out of state that have clients that are moving to the area. And then I've also sent out referrals from buyers who've asked questions, but they may not be in my market. So for me, it's turned into a really great lead source.
Well, 20% of her business in 2022 directly related to TikTok. Again, a couple of messages that come from this. Number one is every one of us should know where every one of our transactions comes from, so that as we build in our business plan, that we make strategic decisions, not like how I feel, but actually measure it. And then it looks like 5 million or more in 2023 is going to come from a specific TikTok strategy. So I think those are just really important numbers to understand. And I would just encourage everyone out there, regardless of whether it's social media or other kind of older school, more traditional open houses, just listed, just sold. How are we getting our business? What is the source of that business? And then leveraging that source to grow that business even greater. Meredith, share with us, you know, as you think about ROI, you know, you made it very clear earlier that $600 is the bronze. It's what you spend. It's perfect, because if you didn't do that, then you would have to do that. And you shared great clarity of it from a business, you know, I'll call it a financial perspective.
Yeah, so I don't look at the analytics. I probably should, but I don't look at it because I simply do not have time. I will tell you one thing that I do look at is my views for videos on Facebook, because I actually print screenshots and I put these in my listing binder. My listing binder is my visual aid that I use on listing appointments when I show them how effective the listing videos are. And so it'll say, you know, 2,000 views, and the videos, you know, could be about something wonderfully interesting or just really basic. People watch videos about anything, but when I'm in front of the sellers, they love that this is one of the long list of things I'm going to do for them, and that it will be shared, you know, on Facebook and Instagram and whatnot. So for me, kind of like Marie, the proof is in my business, because mine is probably 85% my SOI. And it's not that I won't take other leads, I certainly will, but I prefer to work by referral only. That's where I like to spend my time and my energy, working on my people and anything that would come out of that. But I also do get some organic ones who just found me, and, you know, we see you get a lot of feedback on Facebook that's really positive. We'd love to meet with you, and we go from there.
Awesome. Wesley, we're going to shift gears a little bit from in the field to kind of in the back room. So share some thoughts on analytics. I would ask you to do that. And then Rebecca Garber asked a question about 15 minutes ago. What type of content does best on Instagram and Facebook from your perspective?
Yeah, totally. So I'll start with the first, kind of going into the data and the analytics. So that's where our team, again, and the marketing background, that kind of thing, that's how we're kind of judging that success, whether that be for the agents that we're working with, or if that's for the company or an office page, pretty much anything. Because we are not the realtors, we're not the ones that have the personal relationship. It's you guys, the agents. And so it's very hard for us to be like, oh, well, this post did great and that brought in this person. So that's hard for us to track. So the numbers that we're looking at, it can be anything from your audience to like the general age, the gender, the county, city that they're in, that they're reaching. So for example, if we're working with a team in the Greensboro area and we're seeing, oh, all of a sudden they're picking up a lot of traffic from Charlotte, what are we doing that's, how can we readjust that to reach the sphere that they're most likely to have business from, that kind of thing. So we kind of use it as a benchmark. We like to look at numbers and see growth. It really depends on the account. Some accounts can be smaller and then something can just take off and you get an exposure rate of like 300% compared to the audience that they already have. Sometimes it's a big account and it just explodes and takes over everything. So it really just depends on like the goals that you set at the beginning of your marketing process, I guess. So when we, in the Marketing Concierge program, when we get started, we like to set goals with the agents that we're working with, and then we revisit those. So if it's, my goal is educating the home buyer, that's how we're going to tailor content. That's how we're going to work with you and help display your depth of knowledge to your potential clients and your returning clients, that kind of thing. And then we reevaluate based on the numbers and the feedback, how that's performing. Or maybe your goal is to reach more people in a certain, like first-time home buyers. And so we're going to tailor all that content. We're going to work with you to kind of create a specialized plan, and we're going to see how that's performing with that age group and that demographic. So it's very much based on your goals, I guess. And then we're doing everything we can and using the numbers to accomplish it. And then you guys take it that extra step, the extra mile to really bring that personal touch and, like from start to finish, how those people came in. So
Wesley, let me interrupt before you go to the content. So my question is, you've talked about if you're in MC, this is what we do. So if you're not, like, I'm going to ask a little bit of a novice probably question is, I believe that all of these analytics are available to all of us in all of our social media at any time. Am I correct in that? So all the data that you pull is available to anyone who's watching today, whether they're Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or whatever. So all the data is available. Is that correct?
So yes, data is available on every platform. The programs that we use in the marketing department pull a little bit deeper than just the average, like what Facebook would give you. But what the insights that are built within each platform, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, that's a really great benchmark. And you can usually go and it'll say something like insights or analytics or something like that. And it's going to give you a pretty good breakdown. Is it going to be, I guess, really like super fine detailed? No, it's going to be much more bigger picture, but it's going to be very sufficient for you to see how things are performing and how to move forward.
And doesn't it share, over week, year over year, month over month? So you get to see your trajectory at 30,000 feet. To your point, it may not drill down and peel the onion back, but it'll give you a sense. And if you decide that I'm going to, let's say that Meredith and Marie don't use TikTok and they use TikTok and they see it over the course of 2 months, what it may or may not do. So I just think that, I think all of us, some level of analytics can't hurt. as we build and to grow our business. So a couple more questions that I have, and that is, as you think about going forward, we've talked about what you've done. I always love to ask the question, are you working on something that you haven't done that you're going to do? And I ask that question because it puts an accountability on you to ultimately do it, right? Not that you wouldn't do it, but is there something that you haven't done in the space of social media that you've been thinking about and you're committed to do it either in Q2 of 23 or sometime by the end of the year? So I'm going to start with Meredith, Marie, and then Mason. So Meredith, anything that you haven't done or not doing that you're thinking about doing or you're committed to doing different?
First of all, my mind is always running, always running. I've always got ideas. People often say I should work in like a think tank, right? I'm very creative. I don't necessarily have the hours or the people to put all of my great ideas to become a reality. But there's a couple like fun and cool ideas for videos that I'd like to do, but again, it takes time. And just to touch on that, I do a lot of professional videos for listings. There's not a lot of videos that I do that are for fun or funny. Most of my funny stuff are photos. Like I might see something crazy in a listing, like a ceiling fan with only 2 blades, you know, or one time the whole house was vacant and there was a treasure trunk there. And I took a picture of the trunk and I asked people on social media, you know, would you open it? Would you not open it? And it caused this long thread of comments. It was just fun and cool. So I've always got things going on in my mind, but nothing concrete, you know, that I could make happen in Q3, but we'll see. You never know.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I think that, you know, and not doing something new is not a bad thing, right? It's about executing what we're doing. And then it's about making sure that what I'm doing, either I empirically prove it's working, or I fundamentally know that it's doing everything that I need to do from a brand and an impression. And then I walk into the Harris Teeter, as Marie said, and I see somebody and they say, hey, I love that video that you just ran. So Marie, anything on the docket for the next couple of months from you all from a social media standpoint?
So I kind of made a goal for myself for 2023, and we've done it a couple times, but the main one, and it's kind of lighthearted, but it's to get Steven on camera. You'll probably notice if you go on my page, it's mostly me, and that's great, but it is Steven and Marie Lormer. It's both of us. And you know, it's funny, like I kind of mentioned earlier, some of the clients that we would meet were people that he had originally met with, you know, 9 years ago, and we would go to a new listing presentation and it would have been the first time they ever met me in person, but because they were following our page, they felt like they knew me. And so I just feel like there's so much missed opportunity because he's not in front of it, that I feel the two of us together, the synergy, you know, husband and wife, I think will not only, it will just catapult it even more. But I get it, you know, it's not for everyone. So I sprinkle him in certain times, but I'm hoping that maybe this will encourage him to get in front of it. You guys can keep him accountable and maybe give him a hard time. So that's the one thing I wanted to do. And then the other thing really is to leverage sort of my contacts I have in the past, because I worked for the home building industry for so long, and I worked for some of the major home builders that do business here in Charlotte. I know who the division presidents are. I know who these people are, you know, that are making a lot of decisions that are in the new construction world. And so really my goal is to like do one-on-one interviews with them and use that as content. So we were like in conversation with some friends of mine that were thinking about doing it, but I haven't actually done it yet. So that's probably my biggest thing that I'd like to do this year is really get some of my colleagues, you know, my past colleagues together and just have conversation with them about what they're seeing in the market from a new construction perspective, educate people what's happening in their world, and just kind of bridge that partnership.
So I think that's really sound on so many fronts, just for all of our listeners and our panelists. You know, the new construction opportunity ahead of us I think for, I'll call fundamentally resale agents is way better than what was behind us. I think there are going to be opportunities where that particular market's going to need us more than they needed us in the past as the market returns to normal. So as we look from a company's perspective at opportunities go forward, going and helping in new construction, not necessarily massive 100-lot subdivisions, but the 14 houses here or the 8 houses here or the 3 houses here, when the market is as good as it was, builders simply don't believe they need us, albeit I would not agree with that. But moving forward, I think they're going to need us more and more. So I love that from a strategic perspective. And then the other thing is I just want Stephen to know that I'm going to email this group with your cell number. I'm going to encourage
We need a date.
anyone.
Yeah.
I'm going to
We need a
encourage
deadline.
anyone that
Yes,
yeah, I'm gonna
agreed.
encourage anyone to just text him today and just, maybe with a video of yourself. But Stephen, we're going to have a little fun, my friend. You will get a text from me, I promise you. Mason, on the horizon for you, what do you got?
Okay, so 2 things. The first is I'm gonna try to bring more of my videos over to Instagram. In the event that TikTok gets banned one day, I don't know, but I don't think that's gonna happen. But anyway, I just want to utilize different audiences and different platforms, so I'm trying to do more on Instagram. And my other thing is I've noticed that the video, like I tend to share some of my TikTok videos that I've made in the past with clients, right? So if they're confused on our due diligence process here in North Carolina, I've made a couple of videos on that. So I would share it to them, or I would share my TikTok account and say, hey, there's some really helpful information on here. I'm starting to, I started a first-time homebuyer series. So I'm like breaking down the entire process, like going through the documents, walking you through, shopping around, considering new construction, all of that stuff. And so I've learned that if you provide the value first, you come across as more genuine and it's easier to have the conversation. So you're already kind of building that trust. So I want to do a series on like the different neighborhoods and things in Charlotte, because so many of the people that are reaching out to me are relocating from out of state, and they're like, what's great? Like, what are the neighborhoods like? What are some areas around Charlotte? What's up and coming? And so I want to kind of do like neighborhood series, because there's so many different great aspects to our region here in Charlotte. And I know it's the same across the state and across different markets. But you don't really know that until you're here, especially if you're relocating from a different state. So that's kind of something that I'm going to hold myself accountable to doing.
That's well, not only are you going to hold yourself accountable, but we are going to hold yourself accountable. Clearly, a couple of things on here. Let's just say I'm going to do a shout out to a bunch of folks. Rock Hill is in the house. Center City's in the house. Charlotte University City, Ballantyne, Shelby, Gastonia. We got Raleigh. We got Fort Mill. We got Belmont. We got South Park right outside my office. Raleigh, Falls of Neuse, Winston-Salem, Davidson, Burlington, and Wesley Chapel, Concord, and the list. Cornelius, the list goes on and on. So we really appreciate people on these viewing, kind of the viewing parties that they have. I've seen a little bit of food being delivered. So I hope you guys enjoyed lunch. I shared with our panelists that Tate Talk Live is like vacation. And they all kind of looked at me funny, vacation. When you go on vacation, the first 2 days seem to take a little while. And next thing you know, you're getting packed up, ready to go. And I told them, I said, let me tell you what's going to happen. At the beginning, and then all of a sudden we're going to wake up. Now, maybe I'm the guy that is not quite ready to pack up and go, because we've got 11 minutes and I've got 3 questions that I'm going to ask each of you. So this is going to be a little bit of a rapid fire, right? A couple things resonate with me. Number one, we started out talking about groups. So I just want to go around and talk to people. Do you have groups set up? And if so, what are some of them? So to give our audience an idea. Number 2 is we have not talked about Twitter. Does anyone use Twitter? And then number 3, Meredith brought something up that was new to me. And what she said is she took pictures and included them in her listing presentation. And it just hit me, a light bulb went off and said, okay, how are we using our social media strategy as we go out on a listing presentation? So I thought that was great. So this is a little bit of rapid fire. Number 1, groups, yes, no, if so, what? Number 2, Twitter, yes, no. That's going to be pretty self-explanatory. And what might you be doing strategically from a listing presentation standpoint? Let's go to Meredith.
Sure. Of course, Gary, I forgot the first one. What's the first question?
Groups. Setting
Groups.
your joining groups to I'll call segment your sphere.
Yes, so I am very, very much focused in Facebook. I don't do anything else except LinkedIn. I write some professional entries on LinkedIn when I'm feeling creative because I love to write. In another life, I would write. That doesn't mean I'm great, you guys. It means I like to write. So Facebook, I'm doing it primarily there. And what was I going to say about that? I don't know. What was your question number 2?
Well, let me ask you a question. How many groups are you in? Because I remember way back when we did a podcast with Tiffany Moten. She talked a lot about groups, if you remember. And one of the things she said, she's like in 10 different groups, from a dining group to to maybe a yoga group. So how many groups are you connected in?
Probably 25 groups, but you must be mindful about reading their rules, because I've also been kicked out before. Just from over posting and things like that. And I wouldn't say I'm over posting. It's just not in line with their rules. So I would just read the rules and make sure you know. And that's really only for the listing posts. Like if it's other cool, fun stuff, most of these groups are very easygoing and want to know the content. So that's number 1. What was your number 2 again?
Twitter, yes or no?
No. And then number 3, you'll be able to see this very well, but this is the listing binder. And I'm not one of those people who's going to bring like a laptop or iPad, and make you look at it while I show you slides, but I am going to show you like real examples. And so what I would have in here are my actual printouts from, let me get there. So this was actually for Triangle Business Journal, but this is where I show them actual printouts of videos. So this one reads, I don't know, 1,500 people in the Wake Forest community group. That's a picture of our digital billboard. This was for an open house. And it's just another way to say that you're going to be covered, because I'm going over, so many different things. And all of these things are going to expose your property and bring buyers.
Awesome. So I think that really resonated with me when you shared that earlier. Marie, real quick, groups, Facebook, yes, no? If so, how many?
Yes. So I've never actually sat down and counted, but probably over 20 or so. So I try to be in every group. Like if I'm actually in a real group, whether it be Bible study or club or what have you, and there's a Facebook group as well around that, I'm part of that. And then I try to be part of like different neighborhood ones. So kind of like what Mason was saying, like I'm in one for like Waxhaw, Weddington, and Ballantyne and Matthew. So I'm in those groups, and I only really post in those areas when it's appropriate for that particular listing, or if I have a buyer that's looking in that particular area, I might post in one of those groups. But like Meredith, I've been kicked off on some too. So you do have to be mindful of some of their rules. I am not on Twitter at all. I did open a Twitter account once upon a time, but just felt like it didn't work for me, and I didn't see the value in it. But I do Facebook, Instagram. I do a little bit of TikTok, not a whole lot. So that's kind of something I probably just should do more of. But because TikTok is 100% videos, that's really a commitment on my side to create more videos. So not as much TikTok. In terms of listing presentation, like Meredith, I try to bring as much real material that I can to show our clients. We talk about, Steve and I are in a kind of neat position as husband and wife, but also with different things that we bring to the table. He's much more of your sales guy. And so he really talks about sort of the sales aspect that he brings when we list a home. And I really hone in on more of the marketing side and given my background, talk about what I can bring to the table. Obviously, we bring up social media. It is probably the one time I do bring up some of the analytics, because at least from a seller perspective, they like to see the numbers that like your ad that you're doing or your video that you're doing is, having this much reach. So while I don't look at it from a ROI in that respect, I do share a lot of that information to our listing or sellers to get the listing. And I think sellers appreciate that, because we also do a lot of targeting ads and like that are demographic based or geographic based, behavioral ads, stalker ads, I call them. So I show a lot of analytics based upon the stalker ads too.
Great. So I think that makes all the sense. And where we talked earlier about all that, the data is at 30,000 feet. And, we go old school real estate. They wanted to see their picture in the paper. Obviously, that ship has sailed, but the impressions that that listing is going to get, particularly if you boost it or a geofarm or whatever, geofence, you have opportunities to share, views and impressions. And, that's going to make a difference and make it an integral part of your program. Mason, real quick, groups. I know you're TikTok. Are you Facebook? Do you do much on Facebook?
I do Facebook Marketplace for shopping. No, I really don't utilize my Facebook that much. It's not, I don't get on Facebook, and I know that like my sphere is not on Facebook. And so, but that's just different people, different strokes, right? So my sphere is not really on Facebook so much. So we kind of shift more into the Instagram and TikTok. But I definitely think that video is such a good resource to be able to show to your clients that you're able to do this and market something that way, be it yourself, be it their property. And I think that that's a really good resource to have, especially when like Meredith talked about and Marie talked about when they have listing appointments. Even something as simple as a walkthrough of a house with some fun music behind it can do really, really well. And that's just one more marketing tool that you can add into your toolbox when you go to talk to sellers. And I think that everybody shops online right now. And so whenever you help to boost that presence of someone's listing, I think that's an invaluable resource that you can do. And you don't even have to put your face in it for those kinds of videos.
Right.
But yeah, so no, I don't utilize Facebook groups that much. I'm a pretty social person, so I like getting out and doing things. And Marie kind of touched on like church groups, and I play in a pool league twice a week. So I like getting out and I like talking to people and doing the kind of face-to-face stuff. I don't use Twitter. I honestly never got into Twitter. It's not really my thing. But was there one more question?
I think we talked about using it in listing presentation. And so clearly, you're sharing the data that, certainly the success with TikTok. So we've got about 2 minutes left. Maggie Evans has jumped in. She's got a little kind of a heads up on a program coming. And then I'm going to tie a bow around our leverage social media to grow your business. Our panelists were exceptional, which we all expected. They did a great job. Maggie, you got a little heads up for all of us listening today?
I do. You know what? I love hearing. I heard there were some words that I heard: flow, staying in front of my contacts, making sure that that you're being intentional. And so we all know that those are words that we hear all the time in Ninja. So I'm really excited. We have our next Ninja installation is officially open and ready for registration. So real quick, we have the Ninja installation. It's going to come up in September. So we have it this fall in September. It's going to be Tuesday through Friday, the 5th through the 8th. It's going to be all day. And we are moving it on up to the Asheville market, to our Asheville mountain region. We're really excited to be there at the Biltmore. And this is the first time, this is not the first time that they've done it up in that region, but as a company to have it in the same place where we're also going to be staying if you're coming in from out of town. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We'll have hotel information coming up. It's a $995 investment. That's for the course instructor, the course materials, the location of course, and lunch every day. So we do have registration open. If you're interested, go ahead and go to H Suite under professional development, and you click on Ninja installation, and registration is right there at the top. If you have any questions, just email training@allentate.com and I'll get you some answers.
Awesome. So I want to thank everyone who tuned in. We had 100 unique folks, but at the end of the day, what we know is many of those offices had many people. We figure that we get between 300 and 370 people on this live hour. So I want to thank those who viewed. Big round of applause for the panelists. A great job. And I take pages and pages of notes. And so my 3 takeaways are not directed at technology or digital. It's what I heard you say over the course of the last hour. Use social media to build trust. I heard that 3 times. Be authentic. Be yourself. Don't try to be someone you're not, because that is who you are. Be authentic. And last and certainly not least, it's be consistent, right? Build trust through social media. Be your own best self. Authenticity rules the day, and be consistent in everything we do, and great results follow. So as always, I want to thank Wesley, Marie, Mason, Meredith, Maggie, Gary, the 4 M's, and Wesley, Gary. Everybody have a great day, great week. We'll see you in June on Tate Talk Live, and we'll see you way sooner than that. Everybody have a great day. Thank you so much. Take care.